Hi all, this is Chris with EverydayVBA. In this video we're going to be doing the solution to the Macro Monday. List all these sheets in a workbook. This is a fun one. It's a fun one for a couple reasons. One, I'm going to solve it two different ways, so this video may be a little bit longer than normal. It's definitely worth getting through all of it. So I'm going to solve it with a do loop. I'm going to solve it with a for loop. And hopefully those two concepts will just really be able to mesh so that you can kind of just take your Visual Basic to the next level. So let's dig in. I'm in my Visual Basic editor. I've hit Alt F11, which will get you here. We're going to call this sub list sheets. Alright, so first thing we want to do, now currently I have one sheet. I know that because in my project window I just got a single sheet. You'll notice that I have the sheet name, the sheet index, and the sheet code name. The reason I threw that in there is because it's good to understand the difference between all of those. That's why that's important. So, first way we're going to do this is we're going to start with a do loop. First thing we need to do is we need to know where we're putting these. So we're actually going to start on 10, and we're going to do that in sheet 1. So we are going to create a variable, so we're going to call that RP RW equals 10. It helps if you have numlock off, and now I've got insert going. That's pretty exciting. There we go. Okay. I'm going to start with a do loop. We're going to go do, well, first, to do a do loop, I need to know a couple things. So to make my conditions work, I need to know the number of sheets. So we're going to do that CCNT, or sheet count, equals, we're going to go sheets dot count. Now just so you know, I typically would not do this with a do loop, so I may run into some errors here. Once we've got, just so you kind of know what's going on. So we're going to go do while SCNT. We need another variable, so we're going to do CNT, which is going to be just our sheet count. And that is going to be where CNT is less than or equal to SCNT. We're going to loop that. I always, just as a best practice when I'm doing this, is I'm going to make sure that I'm iterating my loop, because otherwise I may end up in an infinite loop. So typically what I do is if I'm using a do loop with a counter, I'm going to always do it with this kind of setup. So as far as do the do, put in my loop so that I end it so I don't have any compile errors, and then put my counter in. Now the rest is relatively simple. We are going to come in here and we're going to go, got to do a couple things. So we're going to go sheet 1, because that's going to be my first sheet. I'm going to go dot cells. We're going to do RPRW, which is my report row, and I'm going to put, we're going to do the sheet name in the first one, and we're going to equal that to sheets CNT dot cells dot name. Okay, so all we're doing here is we're saying, hey, we've got our sheet. This is where we're putting this. We're putting this in 1. We're going to pass over the name. So now all we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and this is where it kind of gets pretty quick. We're passing over the index, right? Now this is going to be a little bit different when I do my for loop, so you'll see kind of how these are managed. And then I'm going to copy this one more time, and we're going to do code name. And code name is basically, code name is what shows up here. So I've got sheet 1, but I've got it called new name. Those can be different. Typically when I'm coding, I use the code name, because if the end user goes in and puts in the code name or changes the name of that sheet, it doesn't break my code. So let's give this a shot. A couple things going on here that I've already noticed is I didn't change the columns here. So we've got that changed. The other thing that I haven't changed, which won't be an issue right now because I only have one sheet, is I do need to make sure that I increase my report row. So RPRW equals RPRW plus 1. And all that's going to do is it's going to say, hey, when I get here, instead of writing this on row 10, I'm going to write it on row 11. So I'm going to walk through this, F8. We are coming through here. You'll notice that this equals 1. My count equals 1. These are now equal. We are going to put that information in. We're going to put in all that information. We're going to add it. It's going to try that loop again. It's going to try to execute that condition. That condition no longer works, so we're going to exit the sub. So that is how you would do it with a do loop. Let's try this with a for loop. Now it's going to be very similar. The only difference is you're going to be using the object and the grouping of those objects. And so we're just going to go ahead and dig right in. And then after we're done, we're going to do some cleanup, which is basically delete what's already there. It's just clean up the code. So we're going to go for each WS in worksheets. Okay, what this is going to do is it's going to say, I'm just going to go through all the worksheets, right? So we still need to do the same thing here where we do, we need to reset this, our report row, because we're doing this for our for loop. We actually don't need to do a counter in this because we're just going through each sheet. So we're going to go sheets 1, because we're always doing this in the first sheet on the workbook. Cells RP, RW, comma 1 is equal to ws.name. Now, why does that work? Well, we're going to go through each worksheet in the worksheets grouping, and it works. You're basically using that object reference, and you're using the object reference of that name. So this is going to be a little different than the one before. I'm going to come in here, go like this. Now, instead of using dot name, we've got to know where it's at, so that's going to be dot index, and that's going to give us that number. And then lastly, we're doing the code name, which is going to be exactly the same. All right, so we're going to walk through this. I'm going to put a break here. I'm just going to run through this whole thing. We've got our report row. I'm actually going to come in here and delete these just to see that it works here. And we're going to go through each worksheet. Notice that comes in fine. Notice I did not change my columns, which is kind of a rookie mistake, which is awesome. But it looks like we are good to go. So I'm going to add a couple pieces of code here, and that's really simply to clear out the ranges that already exist. So that's going to be sheet, and again I'm using the index of the first sheet. That's going to be sheet 1. We're going to do range, and we're just going to hard code this A10 to C1000. I really hope that you do not have worksheets that have over 1,000 sheets in them. That would get very old and clunky. It would not be good. So we're going to clear those out. We're going to come down here. We're going to clear them out again. I'm going to run this and just make sure that it processes everything correctly. I am going to put in a stop here just so that I can check it kind of midway. So we're going to hit F5. Looks like that's great. Now you'll notice that it changed it. I cleared it. I didn't clear the contents. I actually cleared the formatting as well. So that went back from, actually I think I had a default of 18 text. So I would actually probably come in here and I would go clear contents. So I'm actually going to do that over here. That will just be cleaner, and then it looks better on the screen when it's on 18. Let's come in here. Pardon me while I fix my font here. There we go. Okay, we're back to normal. Now you'll notice if I hit F8, it's going to go through here again. Okay, and you're saying, hey, that's great, Chris, but does this work if I have an extra sheet? Well, let's add another sheet. We're going to add this. We're going to call this new sheet. We're going to add another one. This is going to be great sheet. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning. We may add in here a sheets 1 select. And really what that's going to do is if I run this macro at any place, it will actually go to that base macro. So we're going to come back here. We've got new name. We've got this all cleared out. Let's see if we run it, if it fills everything in. It looks like it does, works like a charm. We're going to run that next one. It looks like it does not work like a charm. So all we got to do now is we got our PRW equals our PRW plus 1, because I did not increase that. So what happened is it just overrode it every time. Overwrit. That's funny. Let's give it a shot now. We work. The do loop works. The for loop works. We are golden. We have solved that Macro Monday challenge with 2 different solutions using a do loop and a for loop. Hope this was very helpful. Hope you enjoyed. The code's included. Make sure that you're liking the videos that you like. Leave a comment if you would as well, and always be subscribing to the EverydayVBA channel. Hope you guys enjoyed.